Hey, welcome back. The 2024 campaign continues as Trump racks up the votes and the endorsements. Nikki Haley, though, is still fighting ahead of the South Carolina primary. Let's talk about that and more with our friend Sarah Selip from 917 Strategies up late with me tonight here on the Final Five. What's the 917 stand for?
917 is Constitution Day.
Okay.
And it's my birthday. So you better send me something.
I was trying to figure out like area code wise, but I know it's not that.
Yeah,
so
everybody always asks me that, and I try to like write something for my blog, and I'm like,
no.
No, it's more fun.
Let's talk about 2024, shall we? Because we've had you on after a couple of the debates. We've talked about where things stand there. There are two people left standing, former President Trump and Nikki Haley. And it looks like right now, all the momentum is Donald Trump's way right now. So why is Nikki Haley, why do you think she's still fighting in this? It's
actually a really good question. Beyond just creating the name ID, she's kind of just going down with the sinking ship and trying to lob as many jokes as possible. I read a piece about this in the Daily Caller. It just came out yesterday. It feels like she's gaslighting Republicans, in my opinion, because she's just going on using Trump's rhetoric against her. And she's like, oh, he's too old. This is, you know, Joe Biden going against the grumpy old men. And it's funny because Don Lemon literally attacked her for being past her prime. So it just doesn't make sense. Like, she was good on policy proposals, and now...
Well, I think, too, she's put these policy proposals out, and the voters didn't, so far, have not necessarily bought that. Now, she lost by, what, 11 points in New Hampshire. It wasn't a bit, you know, Trump was predicting 20, 30 points. I don't think anybody really saw that happening. But as we go into South Carolina and you're looking at these polls, that's her home state, and she is losing pretty substantially.
Right. But if you think about it, she had two really embarrassing losses and probably should have taken a step back because all of these massive donors are coming out and still backing her. Why don't they back the rest of the party to try and make sure that we win the majority in 2024? Meanwhile, it flabbergasts me because with the New Hampshire primary, she came back and she's like, oh, well, here's my little victory speech. It's like, you came out and gave that at 6%. Like, there was no victory. You knew it was going to be a tight margin. I expected it to be single digit. But, I mean, 11 points is still pretty good, but...
It is fascinating, the fact that you have her as the last one standing when she, you know, was in his administration. It wasn't as though you had a Biden, Bernie Sanders, you know, two guys who were both from the establishment but just come from vastly different areas where their paths never really crossed.
Right. And I think one of the other things you have to think about Nikki Haley is that even though she was in the administration, nobody ever really wants to be the ambassador to the UN. Everybody, but like actually, and when she was tapped for it, everybody knew that she was like a bushy neocon. So it's not like it's anything surprising.
Well, one of the books, and I can't remember which one it was, and I want to say maybe it was American Carnage by Tim Alberta. I could be wrong, but it described about how it was more of Donald Trump trying to get Henry McMaster on board. What do you want? He was lieutenant governor. I want to be governor. So then he put Nikki Haley in that spot. But regardless, that's how politics works, you know, and that's how things stand. It is tough, though, I imagine, from your perspective. There's a lot going on in the world, and there are a lot of people who get into politics for a couple of years and sort of off-ramp into other realms.
Right.
I want to just talk about what you've been doing, because we have been friends for a while now, and we find so many people who have been on the show that are in the same line of work, and you've kind of been working. I think there needs to be a community of women uplifting each other in politics and public policy.
Right. So I started 917 when I was 23 years old, and my first boss in politics was terrible to me, and she was a woman. And I came in and I was like, oh, you know, like, I'll have a mentor straight away. But I didn't expect it to be as malicious as it was. And there were a lot of women, like, growing up in politics who I really wanted to be my mentors. And it just felt like I was shrugged to the side. And then after a while, I started to talk to a few of my other friends, and they were saying it's really hard for them to find a guiding light in politics, too. So I'm a girl's girl through and through. Like, I'll never understand how, like, people can be malicious to people in politics. So I just kind of decided... With 917, it's a PR firm, but I want it to be bigger than just like cold calling reporters.
Yeah, you've been. I've noticed this lately, and one person who's been on the show many times. She was on last week, Nasa Woomer, who I had no idea you two had that connection. But I think it is a sisterhood of people who work on the Hill, regardless of where you come politically.
Right, and we actually have a really interesting love story behind our friendship. So, but. Ask her about it, but I talk too much as it is. But so I decided late last year when I relaunched, I was going to create a mentorship program for women in comms. So every month I'm doing a get-together I put out the thing on Part of Full, put it on Twitter, and
Yeah.
say, hey, girls, sign up.
Yeah.
Because I want to connect all of these girls who otherwise would feel very siloed.
Yeah.
And because there are so many of us who feel like very silent compared to all of the guys. And we always joke about this in politics. It's like a male-dominated world. It's because the girls aren't standing up and like meeting their own tribe.
Yeah.
So for me, it's just building that for other people.
Where your website for 917 Strategies, because I pretty much gave it away, but what is it?
917strategies.com, 917 Strategies on Instagram and Twitter.
Everywhere.
Literally everywhere. I have something big dropping soon. I'll tell you about that another time.
Okay.
But you should also follow me on my actual Twitter because I'm really funny.
She's also very humble.
I'm very humble.
Sarah, good to see you again as always.
Thanks, Jim.
And the Final Five is back right after this.